Bitcoin's been struggling to break 80K, so should I wait? Should I buy? In this video, I'm gonna give you a real answer to that question, not just some vague explanation. We're gonna look at what's actually happening when it gets to 80K. Then we're gonna zoom out and look at the bigger picture as to what 80K actually means and how it fits into the larger picture. And by the end of this video, you'll have a clear framework as to how you can make that call yourself. This is the series where I turn 10K into 100K, and at the end of the video, I'm gonna show you the exact numbers I'm working with. Let's get straight into it. Now, to understand whether you should wait or buy, you need to understand what 80K actually is, because a lot of people are treating it like it's some magical number when it's really not. In simple terms, it's a level where support flipped to resistance. Here's what that actually means. $80,000 was the support level that price stayed above. So you can see we had a peak at around 108,000. And we could see it dropped to around 80,000, dipped to the lowest. We would say this is a wick to 74,000. But around the 80K level, we had a clear support. We had a base floor that price bounced off of. So essentially, buyers stepped in at this price. They saw it went to 108K. They thought 80 is a good place to buy. So everyone set their orders there. Simple as that. People bought at that level. Now we can actually see price runs up all the way to 126K, its new all-time high. And as it comes down, we can actually see the exact same behavior. So back in March 2025, around this area, you can see it hit that 80,000 level. And then over here, you can see in November of 2025, we have the same support where people see it at that level, buyers step in, price goes back up. Now, so you can see I've plotted out a clear support level at 80K, and we have our resistance at around 120K. The thing to understand now, and this is a principle with support and resistance trading and understanding charts, is that when you're at support, the buy pressure is strong. When you're at resistance, the sell pressure is strong. It's as simple as that. And at 80K, the reason it's a significant level is because we've seen for almost a year or so that it's been that support level. Now, here's where it gets interesting. We've actually had a break past the 80,000 level. So we had a range where it would stay in, and 80K was seen as the floor. We broke that floor, we broke below it, we dropped all the way down to a wick of 60K, around 65K if you don't count the wicks. What we're seeing now is every time it approaches that 80,000 level, we tend to reverse, meaning it has flipped from the buying floor to now the selling ceiling. Now, does this mean it can never go back above? No. Price has a mind of its own. It can do things you don't expect, but we can see a clear behavior as to what people are mentally shifting and what price is actually doing. Is these levels are maybe just psychological. Maybe this is an area of significance due to net profit and loss of the whole market. We can investigate that further, but it's a clear sign that this is a significant level for a myriad of reasons. And now I want to zoom in a little bit to show you specifically day to day how this is actually playing out. So we can see that price kind of found its 65,000 level when it broke through its resistance. And you can see that we had a sharp drop through that 80K level, but it's not like there wasn't any hesitation at that level. We had a wick that came all the way down to 75K, but quickly came back up to 70K. Then we had a couple of days where it's fighting in that range where there's a counteracting of the selling pressure with buying pressure because people see that 80K level and they're like, okay, well, this is the floor last time. So there's a bit of turmoil within the area. Now, selling pressure was way too overwhelming. We see it drop all the way to 60K. We have that insane wick to the bottom here. And then we can see 65 is kind of our new support in the short term. And what happens when we start nearing 80K again? We can see this push up almost gets to 80K, rejected. Same thing, wick here, 80K rejected. Same thing, wick here, 80K rejected. Now we're sitting at 78. The reason this is interesting is because these are multiple data points suggesting the same thing, that 80K is a significant resistance now. So to summarize, basically, price used to use 80K as support, meaning people were buying at those levels. Now it seems to be resistance, meaning people are selling at those levels. If you learn one thing from what you're watching, it's that basic concept is a flip from support to resistance, and the evidence shows exactly that. Now I want to do my best to try and put everything into perspective, because what I showed you was a basically a year to 2 year time frame. I would consider this fairly short term, what price is doing day to day. Now I want to take a wider view and kind of show you what this actually means long term and how I view it considering my actual strategy. Now, there's many points in Bitcoin's history where there are certain ceilings and floors that are significant, either psychologically or just areas where price has struggled to get past. But in Bitcoin's history, we can see that there was a fair bit of support here at the $100 level, meaning price broke above $100, and we can see from that point it only wicked below, right? So we have a clear indication that 100 broke past, became the new support, and then we can see it rallied all the way up to 1,000. Now, when it got to 1,000, we can see that it had a hard break above, so it got all the way up to 1,200, but it didn't stay there long. It came back down. Then once it broke under 100, we can see that price fell, wicked almost all the way back to 100. So we can see that that would be the new support. And then we can see as it gets closer and closer to 100, so it rallies up to 800, struggles from there, goes up to 100 here. We have an indecision kind of candle. There's a lot of back and forth within that area. And then once we break above 1,000, we can see it rallies all the way up to 10,000, actually 20,000. Now that it gets up to 20,000, we can see it does a same thing where there's a psychological level where price breaks above, and then everybody starts selling because they're like, okay, well, I bought Bitcoin at 300 bucks. When it gets to 1,000, I'll sell. This is just how people think, right? Now, we can see it gets up to 1,000, wicks all the way up to 20,000, but then comes below 10,000 again, right? So it kind of hit its head at the ceiling, comes back down. And then we can see once it gets to 10,000 again, we can see it hits its head on that ceiling. We see a couple wicks, but then it comes down again. Then we have a bit more indecision here at the 10K mark, and then we break above, okay? So we're essentially doing the exact same thing that has always happened, is we find a new ceiling, we find a higher floor than we did before, and then we break past the new ceiling. So the reason I'm saying all of that, I know I kind of gave a lot of examples about support and resistance, but the reason I'm explaining all of this is because if you have a short-term daily time frame, 80K looks like clear resistance, and you would want to sell off the resistance level because that's where all the selling pressure is. And we might actually reject off the 80K, go lower into the 60s or 50s, and that's a realistic understanding. But when we zoom out and look long term, 4 years, 10 years onwards, we see that nothing that's happening is irregular. Price always finds a higher floor and goes to higher prices. So for me to panic sell into this dip, it would be me short-term trading and trying to bet that I know the market better than other people, or that I have some insider knowledge. And you could take the support and resistance as that edge. Feel free, if you're trading yourself, use this information however you'd like. I'm not your financial advisor, so I'm not telling you which way or the other. But what I am saying and what I'm showing here is that in the short term, yes, this could be bad, meaning the price could go down further. And considering my strategy, that's actually kind of good news. But in the long term, nothing is out of ordinary. Things are happening exactly how they always have. Price is moving exactly how it always has. And for me, this is more confirmation that I am understanding the markets more and more. And it gives me a calmer feeling as to what it is that I need to do. And the answer to that is I'm going to be doing nothing. I'm going to implement the exact same strategy I always have. I'm not changing anything based off this show of resistance. It's normal. So hopefully that was useful. I am going to get into showing my portfolio because I do that at the end of every video. But first, I want to mention what I do personally, and something I think might be useful to you is I bank with Wealthsimple. If you're Canadian, I would seriously suggest banking with Wealthsimple. So I have a link down in the description if you're interested in getting a new bank or opening a brokerage and starting your investing journey, I highly recommend Wealthsimple. And I also have a link to Trezor. If you're a Bitcoin investor and you want a cold storage, you want to own your own coins, I use Trezor personally, so the link is in the description. Now let's get into my actual portfolio. I'm going to show you exactly what's going on, where I'm at. Let's get into it. Now, here's my portfolio. We are currently up $198.45. That's around 2% of my total portfolio. I'm actually up around 9% all time with the money I've invested in Bitcoin. I've invested around $2,250. The rest is in limit orders or cash. My strategy currently is I have a DCA set for $250 every Monday, and then I have 3 limit orders set at lower prices if prices drop and I can scoop up some more. Nothing's really changed with my portfolio. My DCAs are still hitting like normal. And the question I asked, or the question you may have, is should I buy or should I wait? That's the question I asked myself personally. And the answer to that is always be buying. I think with an asset, especially like Bitcoin with a finite supply, you want to accumulate over time. So always be buying. Obviously look for cheaper prices if you can. I will always be buying. To answer the question of should I buy, my answer is yes. I'm always going to be buying because I'm not a trader by any means. I'm a long-term investor, and that is the goal of this series, is to show you real time every trade I make, everything I do, and show you the actual power of long-term investing, compound growth. Because so many people I see today, they have fear around investing. They don't understand why to invest. They don't have a good philosophy on what they should be doing. And I'm here to show you that. I'm trying to give you a portal into what I do personally and actually show you why some of the fears you have shouldn't exist. You should take action on the market. I'm showing you exactly the actions I'm taking so you can learn from them. If you like this series, if you appreciate what I'm doing, if you want to follow along the journey, see how far I get with this 10K, then please subscribe. I really appreciate it. Comment on what you're doing and what 80K means to you. I really appreciate the support, and thank you all for watching. That's the end of the video. Peace.